Well, hello, Internet. I just wanted to share some thoughts on this mini excavator that I just bought. I haven't seen many videos on this particular one, so I figured I'd share my experience and see if hopefully it's helpful to someone else who might consider buying this particular model. So this is the TPM 20K. This is a diesel model with a Yanmar 11.2 kilowatt 3-cylinder diesel. It's rated at 3,100 pounds, built in July 2025. I got this at an auction in Phoenix, Arizona. The winning bid price was $6,000, and by the time I got it out the door, it was probably closer to $7,500. For a diesel engine, I'm thinking I got an okay deal. But there are some things about this particular model, I don't know, maybe it's a TPM thing, I'm not thrilled about, but again, like the price, considering the price, I'm not complaining. I mean, I kind of figured you get what you pay for with this sort of thing. So these are some things that I have found that I think kind of stood out to me, and I'm curious to see how it compares to other models. I think there's an IRE20 that's pretty similar, probably a couple actually, AGT maybe. But I've seen some videos, I think it was the IRE, that certain things were, I think, maybe designed heavier or better, or the quality was just generally better. So I figure I'd share what I've seen here so you guys can compare if you're thinking about buying something similar. So I think the first thing is that to me it seems like maybe this was originally built for a Kubota engine, or maybe gas and Kubota, and the Yanmar kind of seems like an afterthought. Like maybe they got a deal on a crate load of them and decided to put them in. The engine itself runs great. I'm not going to start it because I don't have the air filter connected. But yeah, and there's certain things on here that I feel like are afterthoughts or just kind of hacked together to make it fit. So I'll go over a few of those things. First of all, the main thing that I found that I am remedying now is the air filter was mounted with a kind of a custom bracket. You can kind of tell what's part of the Yanmar like engine package. They probably just got a crate engine, and so like the exhaust, starter, alternator, I think probably maybe the radiator and those sorts of things probably came from Yanmar. And then you can see brackets that they've made to kind of attach everything to it. So anyway, the stock air filter, hold on a second. When I pulled it apart, it was kind of like over this way. Basically, this little water drain was rubbing on the heat shield. So I think eventually that would have been a problem. And the fitting that goes in the back of the air filter box, this right here, normally it just clips in and you get a decent enough seal here, and then the filter kind of fits on to this, so it's all fine. But this thing was probably like at a 30-degree angle sticking out of here, and wasn't sealing well. The filter wasn't seating correctly on that piece. You can see where it kind of like had been sitting at the wrong angle. And there's also like this inner filter, which is kind of not quite round because you could tell it wasn't fitting or sitting correctly. Anyway, so all that wasn't right. And the bracket was also attached to the main frame, like this piece right here. And then the motor is, of course, separate, and it's on rubber engine mounts. So any sort of movement between the engine and the frame would have been kind of taken up in the rubber hose and the plastic housing of that air filter, and I'm sure eventually it would have gotten even worse, and the filter wouldn't have done as much as it wouldn't have been as effective as it should be. So I'm working on that now. I bent up the engine hoist bracket and the original bracket that held the filter, and so now it kind of fits in here better, and I think that'll be a better long-term solution. The other thing that I noticed is that things like this radiator hose is rubbing on the filler neck. So, you know, they could have cut off maybe a half an inch of hose there and made sure that that wasn't touching. So I don't know if that's a Yanmar thing or something they did when they put the motor in. I guess could go either way on that one. And then this hose also is rubbing up against the frame, you know, take an inch out of that hose and you wouldn't have a problem. Let's see what else. Also, the wiring harness here, I've seen on, I think the IRE, you know, they have like a little bracket or something that attaches to, and these should be, you know, mounted somewhere, I would think. You don't want them upside down like that. And just hanging there, I don't think, you know, water could come in through the body panels if it was sitting outside and get in there, and that can't be good. And there's other little things like where the ground wires here were attached. You could tell they probably just put it on with an impact gun and didn't bother to hold it and make sure it was straight. And so now there's this kink here that might eventually cause some problems. Oh, the other thing I just noticed is the alternator tensioning bracket is rubbing on the bottom of the fuel filter, which has its own mount and is mounted to the frame. So the whole engine is, you know, wiggling around, and it's right up under here on the filter. And so that, I imagine, I'm glad I found that when I did, because if I'd kept running this thing, I mean, I've only run it long enough to kind of get it off the truck and then, you know, get it in here and play around with it a little bit. So, yeah, that would have been a problem. Fuel on an alternator, I mean, it's diesel. I don't expect it would catch on fire, but still, that'd ruin my day. Let's see what else. One thing I noticed, the video that I saw in the IRE, I think it was Grumpy Paratrooper or something like that, showed that there was one or two extra plates back here, and I assume those are counterweights, and this has nothing. It's just, you know, whatever is part of the actual frame and is necessary is there. There's no extra weight added anywhere that I could find. The rear bumper, or whatever you want to call this thing, is just stamped steel. There's no weight to it. It's probably maybe 10, 15 pounds. So one of the things that I'm going to try to do is find some steel plate or something, lead, whatever, that I can attach back there somehow, because this thing could definitely use some extra weight in the back end. Other things, I mean, the radiator and the oil cooler, it does have an oil cooler, so that's awesome. I like that. I think those are fine. The battery's just kind of sitting in there, and then you can tell like this hydraulic hose is up against it, and it's, I mean, I guess it's kind of holding the battery in place, but that's not a great way for that hose to be sitting. That can't be good. That's going to wear. There's lots of little places where hoses are sitting where, you know, if you're only using this thing for a very short amount of time, you'll be fine. But if you put it to work, things are going to vibrate and wear through. There's a couple hoses that are just run in weird places or kinked real sharp. Let's see, I'll go over to the other side. These grease hoses that I think it's for the center pivot and the center pivot motor or gear or something like that. You can tell this one's like twisted up, like they just put it on with I don't know, maybe it was a wrench or an impact gun and didn't bother to hold it on the other side to make sure that the line didn't get kinked. There's a couple other examples of that. On the back left track motor, there's a hydraulic hose that, you know, is kind of twisted because the way they attached it, they didn't bother to straighten it out, take any of the kinks out of it before they tightened it down. These things are loose as they tend to be. I've seen quite a few people with Well, lots of people complain about that, which is fine. I'll adjust that, but come on, take an extra 10 seconds and get it right. And these are loose also. One thing about this model, and I know it's hard to tell because it doesn't have any of the body work on it right now, is it's a little cramped. So I'm 6 foot with probably size 12 shoes, and to operate the pedals, I can't move my foot really back far enough, or get like the right angle to operate those with the way they're placed. So I have to kind of like take the heel and pull up the front of it. So that's not great. I don't know if there's, I guess it wouldn't be too difficult to move things up a little bit, but I'll have to check clearance and see what else I might end up hitting. So anyway, that's not great. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but if you're using it all day, I guess especially with the, well, I guess that's the front blade and the thumb, it could get kind of old with trying to move your legs around certain ways. And there's a lot of other things on this thing. You can just tell it was kind of thrown together, not the most polished product. You know, there's an extra, I assume it's an extra hole here to make it fit the bottom of the roll cage. You know, this screw right here came out at an angle, and there's, you know, threads kind of half stripped already on a lot of this stuff. Let's see. Yeah, you know, 2 out of the 3 bolts holding on the fuel tank. There was only 1 bolt down here. I took it out because I'm going to move things around. Holding on the hydraulic tank. There's 2 more bolt brackets down there for bolts, but neither of them had bolts in them. Let's see. I think the tracks are probably really too tight. I'm going to pull those off. I mean, you can see how tight they are. I'm gonna, once I get it back together, I'll loosen them up a little bit because I don't think that's right. Let's see. I do like the hydraulic hoses go through the, I guess it's the boom. I don't know what the correct term is, but so they're protected, and then of course the cylinders are on the back, so they're protected from, I guess, anything you're doing in the front. Just have to be careful you don't raise it up into a tree or something if you're not paying attention. Yeah, I mean, I think the components are good. It's just the frame and the assembly quality control isn't what I would consider top notch. And again, I understand it's a cheap Chinese excavator. I'm not expecting it to be great. But it seems like, you know, simple things that would just make it a little bit better and tend to last longer. But I guess that's why the big guys get all the money they do. They hopefully pay attention to that stuff. Anyway, here's a valve down here. I've got to go through and figure out what all these different things are. But it's just hanging down there. There's nothing, it's not mounted to anything. It's just sitting there. That one over here is mounted. I think that's pilot pressure, possibly. And then you got this main, I guess we'll call it a valve block or whatever, that has all of the controls on it. So that's one, as far as I can tell, one big unit that does everything. But I mean, as far as the valves and the pump itself, you know, it looks like pretty much what I've seen in all of the other excavators, you know, Chinese little mini excavators. So no real surprises there. The engine looks good. I'm going to replace the engine oil, even though it looks fine. Also replaced the hydraulic oil. Just went to Tractor Supply and got some, 5 gallons from them. So anyway, as far as controlling this thing, it's pretty much like every other mini excavator that I've seen videos on. It's super touchy. The boom going up and down is quite exciting, as is. So I went and got a spring kit from Tractor Supply that came with a bunch of springs. They're probably a little too heavy, but it was like $12, and it came with probably 16 springs, and most of them would be usable. You just have to cut them down. So I'm going to try that out, and then maybe I'll get some lighter springs if I decide that's too stiff. Yeah, let's see what else. I mean, everything else looks decent enough to me. I'm not, expecting name brand quality or design, but everything operates. The engine runs nice. One thing I didn't realize that I guess I was spoiled. I've driven I think it's a PC60 Komatsu, like a larger, commercial grade excavator, and with that you could move the end of we'll call it the end of the arm, the boom, and the bucket close up to the blade, and kind of like clamp things in between, and use the blade to kind of help load the bucket a little bit. But with this, the way the range of motion isn't quite good enough to get it that close to the blade where you can really have those two work together. But I guess that's not the end of the world. I've got a bucket or a thumb, so I think that should be able to do whatever I really need it to. Let's see what else. I did get. You can get a kit of Zerg fittings from Harbor Freight, so I'm going to go ahead and replace all of these. And I think it was like $6.99 for an assorted kit of Zerg fittings. There's a metric kit, so make sure you get the metric kit. So I'll replace all these. I mean, you can also go to like Tractor Supply and get a little container. Somebody said they were 8mm, but I'll see when I start replacing them. Yeah, so there it is. I guess overall impressions, you get what you pay for. I don't know how, what sort of price people have been paying for like the IRE or AGT diesel equivalents. I think, this is probably, we'll say, more on the budget end of things. So build quality and, counterweights, things like that, they didn't go above and beyond, let's put it that way. I'm not disappointed. I didn't pay that much for it, and I, like tinkering around and making sure things are working well and improving it, so works well for me. But if you're looking for something a little bit more polished, maybe look for something else. Maybe it's just, this particular model. I haven't seen that many mini excavators with the Yanmar in it, so it could be that, and also I haven't heard a whole lot about TPM up until I saw this at auction. So it could be that this is a newer brand, or they just started putting the Kubotas in them, and it's going to take some time for them to work out those little things, little issues that they come across if they care to take the time. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, not disappointed. Could be a little bit happier with better build quality. So yeah, there it is. I guess if you have any specific questions, you can leave them in the comments. I won't promise anything, but maybe I'll do a follow-up video once I get it together and start using it and get it all adjusted. Maybe I'll do another video and just kind of let everyone know how it's going. Okay, hope this was helpful to someone, and happy excavating.